support me through PayPal to devinwyndham@gmail.com. devinwyndham@gmail.com is all lowercase and one word. I also tutor both in person and online. I'm based out of Fairfax, Virginia. If you're interested in tutoring, you can reach me at that same email. All right now I wanted to talk about languages. I've studied to varying degrees Latin, French, Italian, and Spanish, and I like thinking about the connections between those languages. They're called French, Italian, and Spanish came from Latin. French, Spanish, and Italian are called Romance languages. Let's talk about accents in Spanish, the written accents. So, for instance, the name Lucia has an accent over the I. Joaquin has an accent over the I. Como, if it's a question word, has an accent over the O. Let's talk about the rules for writing those accent marks in Spanish. So, in Latin, the general rule for stressing a syllable when you speak, like the syllable that gets the most force from your body, was that it was the second to last syllable, called the penult. Oh, here are some interesting terms. The last syllable is called the ultima. Ultimus means last in Latin. Like if you say that's the ultimate, it means it's the last. So it's the be all and end all. It's the best. Ultimate. The last syllable is called the ultima in linguistics. The second to last syllable is called the penult. Penult, paine means almost in Latin. So penult means almost last. Peninsula. Insula means island in Latin, like insulate, or insular island. So a peninsula is almost an island. So Italy is almost an island. Those are just other words that have to do with paine, meaning almost. Anyway, so in Latin, Latin was basically a consonant vowel language. A syllable in Latin is basically a consonant and a syllable, like to love, amare, A-M-A-R-E. Consonant vowel is, well, you can begin with a vowel, but the basic formula for a syllable in Latin is it begins with a consonant and ends with a vowel. Amare. Vowels are considered important because it's coming from your vocal cords, and sort of considered you can't even have a syllable without a vowel. Anyway, in Latin, the vocal stress, the basic rule, the default rule is it comes on the penult, so amare. And Spanish is basically Latin, so the same thing happens in Spanish. Now, over time, we all get lazy when we talk, so we drop out letters. So as Latin was becoming Spanish, that the final E of to love dropped and it became amar. To love, that's called an infinitive, to love. Amare, or amar in Spanish. So amare became amar, but when you talk, the syllable that's stressed in your voice that syllable doesn't seem to change. I mean, America, it just, if we stopped, well, it's hard to change, even if you drop off syllables. So I think it's completely understandable how it's the ma syllable of to love that kept the stress. Amare became amar. Amare became amar, as people, I guess out of just laziness or just wanting to talk faster, dropped off that final vowel. So if I think of that phenomenon as just pervading like all of Spanish. So that's basically why the general rule in Spanish now is to, let's say, emphasize the last syllable when you talk, the ultima, because what you're doing, I guess, you're really, the the rule has basically stayed the same. You're stressing with your voice the penal, the second last syllable, in both Latin and Spanish. And let's just assume that, like in Latin, all words ended with a vowel. So, amare. Let's say in Spanish, if the vowel is still there, you're fine. But if it dropped, then you're accenting the penal becomes the ultima. So amare becomes amar. What's another one I can think of? I love in Latin is amo, and in Spanish it's amo. It's, it stays the same. So the stress is on the penal in both languages. You love in Latin is amas. You love in Spanish is also amas. He loves in Latin is amat with a T at the end. In Spanish it's ama. We love in Latin is amamos. In Spanish it's basically the same thing, amamos. You plural love in Latin is amatis. In Spanish, you plural informal love is amais. So the T just got drops, and then, but it's still that ma term. So basically, we have this. We can see how this rule in Spanish comes. That in Spanish, you emphasize the second to last syllable, just like you would in Latin. Amo, amas, ama, amamos. Unless the word ends in a consonant, because that we're just thinking, okay, well, what happened is, I guess, people just out of laziness, the final E just drops. So amare becomes amar, but you're still, I guess, technically accenting the second to last syllable. So just let me summarize. So in Spanish, the stress in your voice basically falls on the second to last syllable if the word ends in a vowel, and it's going to fall on the last syllable if the word ends in a consonant. And let's do some examples. Amar, amo, amas, ama, he loves. Amamos, we love. Amais, you love. Aman, they love. And basically exceptions to that will be written with that accent. It looks like an acute, what we call, if you study French, an acute accent. It starts at the lower left and goes to the upper right. And that's the only basically that's the only accent you have in Spanish. Well, S is just formed. S really doesn't count as a consonant at the end, because I guess you could consider that's how you form plurals. So to expand that rule a little bit in Spanish about where the vocal stress falls, it's going to fall on the second to last syllable if it ends in a vowel, or it falls on the last syllable if the word ends in a consonant. And S, well, not, except for S. If it ends in a consonant, if it ends in an S, well, if a word ends in a vowel and then an S, it's just considered like it ends in a vowel, because I guess that S is just considered to form the plural. I'm wondering what happens if it ends in a consonant and then an S. But maybe that, I don't know, I haven't thought about it. Maybe that doesn't happen. Because the Spanish language doesn't seem to like to have more than one consonant together, really. Because of that, you remember I talked about in Latin, the spirit of the Latin language holds that a syllable is consonant vowel. All right. There's another exception. They love in Latin is amant, A-M-A-N-T. In Spanish, I guess, out of laziness, that T drops out over time. So it's just aman. Aman. Laziness for people just wanting to speak faster. Aman. So that N is going to aman, the third singular, verbs in the third plural, I mean, like they, something frequently end in N. In Latin it was NT. And in Latin, that word amant, that would be on the second to last syllable, amant. So that's another exception, an N. So now for like the full rule in Spanish, the stress in your voice is going to fall on in the word, it's going to fall on the P note if the word ends in a vowel or an S or an N. If the word ends in any other letter, basically any consonant besides an N or an S, the word is going to be stressed on the ultima, the last syllable. And then exceptions to that are indicated by the written accent. And the written accent is going to show you where to place the vocal stress. And there are, to fully understand that system, we need to talk about vowels in, I guess, what could be considered a weak vowel or a strong vowel in diphthongs, like Lucia. The name Lucia has an accent on the I because I think of I as a weak vowel because E. Say in the Romance languages or the languages that came from Latin, the letter I is pronounced E. E. Say that to yourself. E. E. You can feel that you're almost smiling. Your facial muscles are tense. E. It's hard. I think it's hard to prolong that vowel sound. So I think of it as weak because if there's another vowel contiguous to it, it will meld into that and become a diphthong. A diphthong is two vowels pronounced together in one syllable. So if you want to tease out that a weak vowel and make it its own syllable, it has to have that accent. So we want to tease out the I to get accented in that name because that's how it's pronounced. So that's why you have that accent, the Lucia. I think of U, the letter U in the languages, in Latin, the languages that came from it, is pronounced, well, in, let's say in Spanish and Italian, it's pronounced oo. That's also weak, I guess, because your lips are out and your muscles around your mouth are tense. So again, it's hard to say for a long time. All right, let's stop here.